But let's move on to this issue now. The National Energy Regulator of South Africa, Nersa, has called for public comment on a proposal that could see consumers paying an additional 76 billion rands to Eskom. The current situation stems from a 2025 High Court ruling that set aside a previous 54 billion settlement between Nersa and Eskom. Let's chat about this with Nersa Executive Manager for Electricity, Rhulani Mathebula. A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Mathebula. Thank you very much for your time. Would you agree, as some people have suggested, that in fact this situation is quite an indictment on the part of Nersa, that this situation where you only have to consult now should have happened a long time ago, and the argument there is that you actually didn't take the interests of the public into account?
Yeah, Vuyo, good afternoon, and good afternoon to your viewers. And thanks for having me on the show. We understand the concern, obviously, that the public has around this matter. And we wish we had done it differently ourselves as the regulator. The whole of last year, since August of 2024, to be specific, we went around South Africa in all different provinces, engaging society and members of the public on this multi-year price determination based on the application that Eskom had actually brought before the regulator. The whole process actually came to an end in January 2025, when the regulator announced on what the electricity price increases will be for the 3 years, which was the 2025, 2026, and 2027 in terms of calendar years. But in financial years, it obviously moves into 2028. So that was how the process was meant to have evolved, Vuyo. And immediately after that decision was made, then Eskom moved to implement the first year increase. That was on the 1st of April of 2025. And the municipalities then went and implemented their increases as from the 1st of July 2025. And that was the first leg of the implementation of the multi-year price determination that was announced in January of 2025. However, Eskom then went to court, Vuyo, and with an indication that their allocation or their allowable revenue that has been determined by the regulator for their generation business has a shortfall of 107 billion. And on top of that, Eskom believes that there is an error by the regulator on some of the calculations, especially on depreciation and the regulatory asset base. And this matter was then before the court. And Vuyo, I must reiterate that this was after the consultation process has been taken through and the decision of the regulator was pronounced in January, as I said. Therefore, once the matter is before the courts, the regulator therefore had two options. One was that to allow the process to follow the course of the courts, where the two parties will then go and make their representation and allow the court to make a ruling. Secondly, the option was that the regulator and Eskom could have what we call a settlement, and that settlement could be made the order of the court. So that is how the sequence of events actually went, Vuyo. However, when we got to a point where the matter was supposed to be made the order of the court, that is when there was an intervention by the Minerals Council as well as AfriForum, indicating that the settlement was done without consulting. And that is what has brought us where we are today, where the High Court has now made a judgment on the 21st of December, indicating that that item that Nersa and Eskom were contesting before the court should be consulted on, so before it can be finalized.
But then, didn't the High Court find that you, as the regulator, made errors? And didn't AfriForum and the Minerals Councils then come in because they felt you were trying to make up for your mistakes by possibly trying to reach a settlement to essentially save face?
Look, we had acknowledged that indeed, when the matter was brought before the court by Eskom, we had acknowledged that indeed we also have realized that in the allowable revenue for their generation business, especially for the second and the third year of the generation business, there was an error that we needed to correct. And because the matter was before the court, as I indicated, we had two options. One was to allow the court process to proceed as per norm, or to make a settlement and make that settlement an order of court. And this was also to ensure that we minimize the disruptions that will come with us having to start the process afresh.
Okay, there's going to be consultation, and the deadline for public commentary is the 21st of January. And you are asking people to come forward and make representations. But realistically, what do you expect the public to say if people are being asked to foot the bill for the shortfall, which is going to mean an increase in electricity cost? I think it's rocket science what people are going to say.
Look, consultation, Vuyo, it's a process that has been, it's part of the process of the regulator. And it is expected that the regulator should, before it makes its decision, should put the information that is at its disposal to the public and allow the public to make comments. Vuyo, I must indicate that this information is not new information. This is information that was also part of the consultation that we actually did from 2024. The problem was that when we concluded on what should be the allowable revenue for Eskom, that is where there was this error that actually made the allowable revenue that was supposed to have been pronounced in January to actually be less than what it was meant to be. So these figures, we are requesting the members of the public to look at the figures as published and indicate what, in their view, should the regulator be considering as prudent costs and what should the regulator be considering as not prudent. Because that is what the role of the regulator is before it can finalize what the price of electricity should be.
I think but to what extent is this exercise essentially going to be about, one, rubber stamping your decision while at the same time making up for your errors?
Yeah, Vuyo, there's this is a process that we need to follow, and there is two things that actually happens in the process. One is that we would look at the comments and the inputs that the public has made, And these comments and inputs, Vuyo, when we make our final decision, we produce what we call our reason for decision document. And this document will get published, so the public can still be able to see if what their views were has actually been considered by the regulator and to what extent. So it is not a process just to rubber stamp. It is indeed a process where we want to hear the inputs of all affected parties. And this is the same process that we actually had done when we came to the decision of the multi-year price determination since 2024 August.
And that's where we're going to leave it for today. Nersa Executive Manager for Electricity, Rhulani Mathebula. The regulator is asking you to weigh in on a proposed 76 billion rand tariff hike for Eskom, which, of course, I mean, your commentary is expected before the deadline, in fact, is the 21st of January. So feel free to come forward, considering the fact that it's going to impact your pocket, because it means that you're going to see an increase in electricity costs.